Hello, everybody. I hope you're fine wherever you are. I am your Acca tutor, the favorite number one online Acca tutor who has been with you so far, and I hope you are enjoying the learning experience. Okay, and I'm sure you're still in the previous week's mood where we talked about pie charts, graphs, and so forth. Okay, those were meant for to prepare you for the preparation of managerial reports. Remember, you are studying a professional qualification, and at any day the company, even the company finance director, might entrust you to say, hey man, can you go to the bank and represent me? All right, so do not look down upon yourself and say, oh, I'm still a student and this and that. Hey, you are studying a professional qualification, which means you are bound by ethics, professional ethics. You are bound to be somebody who is responsible. Okay, so start to feel like somebody of higher responsibility, somebody who can be trusted. All right. Now, in this week, we are inclined towards studying coding, all right, and some bit of source documents, all right. But most of our work would be related to coding and accounting for materials. Remember, we are trying to crush things, to compress them, all right. So we want to minimize the study period as much as possible so that we arrive to the exam center as soon as possible. Okay, so in the first possible opportunity, we must be writing this exam. So we are only left with just 4 weeks of study, 4 weeks of study for this paper. All right. Uh, as you always remember, as you always know, um, we need to subscribe to the channel, okay, so that we are notified of new topics as they come. If we are not students of Transcar Consulting Services, we have to subscribe to the channel. All right. If you're a student, do not worry because your tutors are always going to send you appropriate videos for your study. All right. You also need to know that if you're not a student, you are not gaining from having study notes. All right. You're not going to have uh, weekly assignments. You're not going to have tutor feedback. But if you're a student, you are assured that you are going to get those things. Continuous assessment is very important. This is why students always, universities always implement that. Okay, a student should have some assignments to do. Reading on its own is not going to assist you. Practice on its own is not going to assist you without a tutor. Okay, you need a tutor by your side who is going to lead you along the way so that you're not going to lead yourself astray. Anyway, without wasting much of your time, let us get straight to business of the day. All right. Coding. What is coding, by the way? What are we talking about when you are saying coding? All right. A code. Let us start by that. A code is a system of words, letters, figures, or symbols used to represent others. An example of codes is general ledger codes. All right, you might find in an accounting system where we have got something that is been coded like, hey, like for example, LG2140. Okay, uh, the workers in this particular shop or the accountants, they really know that the LG simply stands for the let's say an LG TV. Okay, of a series or of um, I mean of an identification number that ends with a 2140. Maybe this one is a 12-inch TV or a 21-inch LG TV. All right, they can't actually input the whole words. For example, LG LED television 2019 series and so forth. Hey, we can't input all that data in the general ledger system. What we use is the codes. All right, we normally use codes. All right, if you are talking of let's say an employee an employee is usually given an employee number. That's a form of a code, okay? An employee number, for example, MR206. All right, that's your employment number. All right, simply means that this number is given for the price, preciseness, all right, or conciseness that comes with codes. All right, we want to shorten things, we want to do job easier, so it is laborious to input the whole name of a person all the time when we want to transact or to do a transaction with that person or in respect of that person. So this is why we come up with code. All right, so a code is a system of words, letters, figures, or symbols used. Sometimes this number might have this hash, okay, at the start. All right, or sometimes we input a star at the end, which means if you input this number without a hash, the computer system is going to say, we do not know such a person. We do not find anything or a record in respect of that, or that number or that employee does not exist. All right, so you have to make sure that you input the correct code for you to get the correct information which you are looking for. A good coding system will possess both of the following features. Each item has a unique code. All right, each item has a unique code, which means one television out of a thousand televisions that could be found in a television store or a furniture store has got its own particular code. All right, has got its own identification number. Okay, but some goods, for example, bread, you can't expect to get a unique code for one loaf of bread in a retail shop. That doesn't work. Okay, usually such retail goods, they're normally given one code. Okay, because of their fast moving nature. All right, they are fast moving goods, so it's better to just know that for a loaf of bread we use this particular code. All right, but for high value items, a code is going to be given which is unique. All right, that can actually identify that particular product away from the other. All right, so a good coding system should be able to give out or to issue unique codes. Then codes are uniform in structure and length. All right, when we are talking of uniformity, we are simply saying the way these codes are crafted or originated, they should actually be uniform in a particular organization or particular department. All right, we do not expect to see, let's say, for example, employee numbers. Some employees have got their numbers starting with an MR206 or whatsoever. Okay, they start with two letters. But we then end up seeing other employees having their employee codes starting with figures or with special symbols, like for example the hashes, the stars, and other special, alphanumeric symbols. Then there could be some discord. Okay, so we are saying if our employees are having these codes, are having employee codes, then we have to expect to see them having letters. If we are using letters, okay, the employee number should start with letters or at least two letters and then some figures that follow. All right, that's some type of uniformity in structure. Also, the length of the code, all right, might tell us that this product was actually bought from our shop. Okay, let us say a customer ends up returning the goods and they are claiming that the code for this product is having six characters. Okay, 6 characters. Remember, for example, this employee number has got how many characters? We've got 1M, 2R, 3, 4, 5. This one has got 5 characters. So the length of this code is a 5-character code. Okay, 5-character code. All right. These characters are a mixture of letters and figures. All right. And if we have to include this, the hash and the star, it means that this code is a 7-character code. All right. So in length, we are simply saying our employee numbers in this particular company has got or have got 7 characters. Okay, that's what we mean. That's what we mean by the length. So if an employee then comes, they say, I'm an employee of this company, and we ask him, what is your employee number or employee code? And then they start to give us a 4-character code. Then we can easily say, no, you do not work here. This is important for companies which have got a lot of employees. All right. For example, if you go to a company like, for example, let me just think of this now. Okay, for example, OK Zimbabwe. All right. If you are talking of OK Zimbabwe, it has got a lot of companies. Right. I mean, a lot of workers. So if some employee comes to another branch and say, hey, I work for OK Zimbabwe, and they ask them, all right, so what is your employee number? And they start to give some weird code, some weird employee number, then they can be easily identified. All right. Another example is, for example, the police force or the military. The military has got a lot of employees. Okay, we're talking of many soldiers, right? And the use of employee numbers actually help them to identify whether this guy is really part of them or is really a soldier. So when they call out their employee number, they can be easily identified if they are not a soldier or part of the military. Okay, so that's how these codes assist us. All right. Codes can be alphabetical or numerical. Okay, that's one attribute. The length and complexity of a coding system will depend upon the needs and complexity of the organization. Let's say our organization is a 5, in terms of workforce, we've got only 5 individuals. Okay, a 5-man organization where we only have got the managing director and another director who happen to be their wife or husband, and then 3 employees. We do not need a complex code. Okay, we do not need a complex code in that situation. We are a very small organization, so it's actually even better to just have a 4-character code. It's fine. All right. But when we start now to grow and become bigger and bigger and bigger by the day, then you will see that the use of these codes becomes apparent. Okay. Now, why do we need codes? Codes are used because they are concise and precise and can be subject to computer checking, okay, which is I do for transaction processing. All right, so what do we mean by concise? We are simply saying that codes are shorter and quicker to write. This is why you see 2 operators, they find their work so easy and interesting because they use codes. If you say, I need a price for this item, you just show the cashier and then she just punch in the machine for just punch in about 3 or 4 letters, which are codes of that product, and the price pops up as quickly as possible. They do not have to write everything concerning the actual name of the product. So codes are shorter and quicker to write. Then precise. They enable unique tagging of products. All right. They reduce errors when you want to identify a product. You might end up making errors in spelling and so forth when you try to identify a product in the system. But with codes, the risk of making errors becomes reduced. Okay, it becomes minimal. So they enable unique tagging of product. A product among several products can be easily identified with the code. They also facilitate checking. Okay, computer checks are added through coding. For example, if all codes have 7 figures, if a 6-figure code is added, the system rejects it. This is actually a serious fact. Okay, they are um, there are organizations where when you input a figure or a code that is not the correct one, or that has got a length which is not synonymous to other codes, then your request is not going to be processed. For example, if you try to enter a university student ID, okay, if you try to enter a university student ID, or even your Acca number, student number, and you miss one figure, all right, if you miss one figure, and even if you know your password, the system is not going to assist you. Why? Because your figure information or input was not correct, okay, was not full. You have to put everything that is required. Sometimes if you exceed the number of characters which are required, the system again is going to reject. Okay, so because of that attribute, codes are used for checking if the data that is going to be processed is actually right or good data. Remember, if you input wrong data in the system, do not expect the system to make it right. Okay, there is this principle of garbage in, garbage out. Okay, the giggle. If you input wrong data, it will always be processed. So they try, the use of codes try to minimize this. All right, if we use codes, then the risk of processing wrong data is minimized. The issue of processing. Okay, certain coding will enable the computer to originate or update the financial account after transaction. Now, the use of codes has gone an extra mile, where if we are using codes, let's say for our products, okay, for our products, for example, we are a retail shop, all right, and we procure sugar from a wholesaler, all right. We code that as a purchases. Okay, we recognize a purchases, we debit purchases, and credit, let's say cash. We've bought those ones for cash, which is fine. Now, when we input this debit entry in our purchases account, all right, we'll be using a code, right? We'll be using a code for sugar, all right. Now, when the customer comes, all right, we then have to, all right, okay, I said when we buy goods from a wholesaler, okay, for example, sugar, we debit purchases, all right, and credit cash, all right, and we make use of unique codes for sugar, all right. But as I have also indicated, a fast-moving good cannot necessarily be given a different code, okay, because these ones are fast-moving. So it is also possible that they can be given a similar code. For example, loaf of bread, sugar, and so forth. All right. So we debit sugar, that is, we debit purchases and credit cash. But remember, this account is going to be quickly converted into inventory. Remember, purchases, when they arrive, they are then quickly recognized into inventory. So the double entry that follows, okay, the double entry that follows that should be debit inventory, okay, debit inventory, and credit purchases. All right, because we are removing goods from the purchases account, all right, into inventory. So inventory is receiving. So if inventory is receiving, then we are crediting the purchases account, all right, and debiting inventory. Now the customer then finds the sugar in the inventory account. All right. So when the customer buys from the inventory, okay, buys sugar, the sugar leaves the inventory. Okay, so that process, the double entry is we are going to debit the customer who is receiving and credit inventory, because the inventory account has been reduced. But that process in the coding environment is actually being assisted or made efficient through the use of code. So you will see in many accounting software or accounting information systems, when a transaction occurs, let's say for example this sale transaction, we have sold sugar. If that happens, automatically the inventory records are updated. All right, the moment we sell at the point of sale in the supermarket, be they at ShopRite or Pep, whatever supermarket where we'll be purchasing these goods from, the moment you buy an item and you pay your money at the till and you get your receipt, the inventory records would be updated automatically. Okay, so this is what we refer to the processing issue. Okay, the processing happens almost automatically. The moment a transaction is completed, the inventory records, whatever record that it applies, is automatically updated. Okay, so code should be easy or simple to use, understandable, concise, precise, expandable, enabling additions of similar items to particular code series. When we are saying the code should be expandable, we do not want a situation where when we reach at some level, it is impossible to input or to expand the code. We do not want such a situation. So whenever you are crafting a code or you want to have a code in your business, you need to consider also whether we are going to cater for so many things or we are only going to remain the same for a quite longer period. Okay, let's move. Now, types of code. Code can be sequential, block, faceted, mnemonic, and hierarchical. Okay, a sequential code is a code that makes use of numbers in their chronological order. Okay, for example, we are having a code that is, a code, let's say it's number 1, number 2, number 3. Number 1 represents a certain item, number 2 another item, number 3 another item. All right, this was actually the initial coding practice when the use of codes came into rescue. However, it was determined that sequential coding has got a problem if the code reaches number 9999 and we can't actually continue. All right, so it has been determined that to avoid such an issue, okay, to avoid such an issue, there is need to use some zeros in the way we make codes. All right. Another problem that has been identified with the use of chronological numbering was, let's say, A was for product that starts with an A, okay, and also 2 was also for those products. Let's say this one was for apple, number 1, and number 2 was for asbestos. Number 3 was for something, for example, bananas. Okay, this company sells everything. All right, but then after a long time, they then recognize that there is another product that has to be sold, but this product starts with an A. Okay, but all the numbers are full now. Okay, where do we have to put this A, this another product? Okay, so there is it was actually determined that the expandability of this coding system was problematic. Okay, and it was a bit confusing because when let's say auditors have come, they say we want to check products which starts with an A. Okay, they would discover that some products were having a code, let's say number 1, 2, up to number 5, and then other products which starts with an A were found at number 700 and so forth. That actually made the job difficult. Okay, and even employees, they cannot appreciate your coding properly, ending up making errors or failing to meet customer requests. Okay, so this problem could be avoided if the numbering was in such a way that, let's say, we put 1 or we simply start with a 0 0 0 1. Okay, or we put another 0 here. All right, this might assist us if we continue to code. Let's say the next number would be 0 0 1 1. Okay, 0 0 0 1 2. You can see if we are coding our items like this, there is still room to expand. All right, there is still room to expand, even if when we reach this, we can still have more room to finish. I mean, to until we consume all the zeros. All right, so this is an improvement of the sequential or progressive code system. Then we've got a block or group classification codes. All right, these ones now they've got some similarity when it comes to the first digits or first letters of the code. All right, but as the code expands, it starts to lose interest. All right, for example, you can see that this first code here starts with figures. Okay, they start with figures. All right, for example, the nails would be starting with number 4. Okay, all screws will be starting with the code number 5. All bolts, whatever type of bolt, will start with number 6. But we do not know now. We do not know if we want to identify a particular nail. Let's say for a 2-inch nail or a 5-inch nail. Okay, it's difficult because our codes only tell us that if you see number 4, those are codes. Okay, I mean those are nails. It represents nail product. Okay, but if we want a particular nail, it is difficult through the use of block codes. They only tell us that if you see in the system products with code number 5, you just have to know that those are screws. But for you to analyze how fast in terms of moving are 12-inch screws or 5-inch screws, it's difficult. All right, so that's the problem with block codes. Faceted codes. These are a refinement of block codes in that each digit of the code gives information about an item. All right, so this one is some improvement. Okay, for example, the first digit 1 is for nails, 2 screws, 3 bolts. All right, but the second digit that follows, let's say if we say 1 and then there's another digit that follows, say number 2, this might simply mean that this is a steel nail. Of course, here number 1, we know that this is a nail, but number 2 tells us that it is a steel nail. Okay, steel nail. All right, some are plastic nails, some are wooden nails, but this one is telling us that this is a steel nail. All right, if we are having a number 3 that is following after 1, then we can say this is a copper nail or a brass nail. All right, then the third digit is going to tell us if it is, let's say, the number 4. Okay, the third digit in that code will tell us whether these are 150 millimeter nails or 260 millimeter nails or 375 millimeter nails. All right, So that's the faceted code. Every every digit every digit has got a meaning. Okay, but you must appreciate that faceted codes are usually come with letters. Okay, they do usually come with letters. When you see a faceted code that has got completely figures, okay, that has got no letters in it, then you should uh, quickly suspect that it is a hierarchical code. Okay, you just have to suspect that that code is a hierarchical code. Faceted codes, by nature, they usually come with figures. All right. For example, let's say you are a tailor. All right. If we see a code like M, all right, M, and then SUB, all right, 32. Okay, that's an example of a faceted code, and we say that every letter there is actually going to mean something, or every figure means something. So we are simply saying if it is a suit, okay, then we can see that it is for male, okay, and here it is a suit, all right. SU simply means suit, all right, and then B is blue suit, and this figure tell us that it is size 32. All right, so that's the main attribute of a faceted code. All right, it usually comes with a combination of figures and letters. All right, and when it is completely uh, in figures, then you just have to suspect that that is a hierarchical code, and we'll talk about them shortly. Now, mnemonic codes. All right, mnemonic codes are actually an aid memo. All right, they usually give you some hint. All right, they usually give you some hint. Um, Under this type of coding, the code means something. Okay, it may be an abbreviation of the object being coded. An example is the three letters coding used for airports. All right, so when you go to airports, you can see some code like lax. Okay, for those you see in a passenger terminal where you see an abbreviation lax or CAI. Okay, lax stands for Los Angeles, and Kai for Cairo. Okay, Sin for Singapore. All right, and LHR, that is London Heathrow. So that's a mnemonic code usually gives you a hint of what you want to search. Then lastly, we talk of hierarchical codes. All right, this is a type of faceted code where each digit represents a classification, and each digit further to the right represents a smaller subset than those to the left. All right, for example, 3 is equal to screws. All right, 32 is equal to round-headed screws, 31 flat-headed screws, and 322 still round-headed screws, and so on. All right, so like as I've indicated, a hierarchical code is also a faceted code, but this type of faceted code makes use of figures as it is expanded. Okay, the the far the expansion, the far the information that is being represented. Okay, now source document. This one is actually an issue where you can actually make use of the notes. Everything is actually is elaborated in there. All right, let's talk of free inventory. Free inventory is inventory which is free to be used to other departments or jobs. All right. It is inventory on hand plus inventory on order minus inventory that has been scheduled for use. All right. So when you're talking of free inventory, we are simply saying we are trying to minimize wastage. All right. We might be having another department that is having enough and some extra. All right. So such extra is what we call free inventory. It can be employed for use by other departments who are in need, while it will be waiting for replenishment from suppliers. Okay, so the formula is uh, inventory on hand plus inventory on order minus inventory that has been scheduled for use, or has been committed for use. All right. Suppose that a company currently has a stock of 10,000 kgs of material X. It has ordered another 2,500 kgs and 5,000 kgs have been committed for future use. The future inventory obviously is going to be the 10,000, okay, that is currently in stock, plus 2,500 that has been ordered, okay, minus the committed stock, the stock that has been scheduled for use, and we get 7,500. Okay, we're not going to talk about things which we have all the notes and which are, a bit discussive. All right, those ones are just issues to read. That's the use of notes. Okay. Now, let's do this example on the accounting for materials. All right. Remember when we purchase materials, and we have to record them as accountants, right? Whatever movement that happens to those materials should be recorded or should be reflected in our accounting records. Movement of the material between each stage has to be accounted for in a series of T accounts. As material moves into a department or category, the T account is debited with the cost. All right, the cost of that material becomes a debit entry in whatever T account, in whatever category or department account that is affected. As materials move out of the department or category, the T account is debited with the cost. All right. So what we are simply saying is, let's say we've bought items from supplier. Okay. So these becomes our raw materials. All right. So these are simply means that these issues are from supplier. Okay. These items are from a supplier, from suppliers. All right. So when they reach our raw materials account, it's a T account. All right. So we are going to debit this movement into the raw materials account. Okay. So we debit raw materials and credit the supplier. Okay. But when they now move from the supplier to, when they move from the raw materials, let's say warehouse, okay, when they move from the warehouse to production, remember the raw materials account is actually a responsibility of the warehouse, okay. Now when they move from raw materials, that is from the warehouse to production department, then we are going to have another T account, okay. And for production we have got a standard account that is work in progress account. Okay, so when they move from raw materials, they are debited into the work in progress account. Okay, so we debit work in progress with the cost of those materials. All right, now the production has done its part and these goods are now finished. They are complete goods. We call those ones finished goods. Finished goods. Okay, when they are now finished goods, we transfer them from work in progress into finished goods. So we are debiting finished goods, we are debiting inventory. We debit inventory and credit work in progress. Okay? We debit inventory and credit work in progress. Please remember this double entry because they are always going to come in your examination. They are always going to come. Then, when the customer comes, okay, we are going to have another double entry, the normal double entry now. Okay? Alright, this is the customer. We are going to credit finished goods and debit the customer who is receiving. Okay, so that's what happened. Okay, please understand this diagram as it is going to assist you. All right, let us have this example and see if we can come up with something that is meaningful. So you can just pause the video and read this question. So assume there is no opening inventory at any stage. 1,000 units of raw material are bought for $5 per unit. 800 are issued to production where labor worth $2 per unit and production expenses of $1 per unit are added. 700 of the units are transferred out to finished goods at the end of the period. Although finished, 100 units are still in work in progress at the end of the period. 500 finished units are sold. Okay, that's the information which we are given. Now we need to determine what is the total cost per unit of inventory. All right, we are told that the raw materials are bought for $5. Okay, $5, and the labor is $2, and then we have got to incur production expense of $1. So obviously we are going to have $8 as total cost of inventory per unit. Okay, so let us now try to come up with the double entry bookkeeping to record the movement of stock from the initial stage up to the point at which the items are sold. So we start with the raw material account. Okay, we can simply have to reflect this in units and dollars. Okay, units and dollars. Okay, now we are receiving items from suppliers. Okay, we have bought items from suppliers 1,000 units, so we are having a payable. Okay, 1,000 units. Okay, at $5 per unit, so 1,000 multiplied by 5, that's $5,000. Remember, the cost is $5 per unit. All right, and now we have to transfer. This is the first account. All right, and then we have to transfer these units. All right, we have to transfer the units to work in progress. Okay, but we are not transferring all of them. We are only transferring 800. All right, so we come here and say to work in progress 800 units. But remember, each unit of material is worth $5 per unit. So $5 multiplied by 800, that's 4,000. Okay, and we have to balance up our account. We can see that the credit side is 2 legs behind, is 2 in shortfall. So the shortfall is the balance that for raw materials which are left in stock. So we say balance CD. Okay, and that's 200. Okay, multiplied by $5, that's a 1,000, and you can see that our account is now balanced. That's 1,000. 5,000, 5,000, 1,000. Okay, we then have to account for the work in progress. Remember, these items have been transferred to production. Okay, so we must have the work in progress account. So we can open our work in progress. Work in progress account. Okay, the work in progress account can also have the units column and the dollar column. Now, because we have received in this account materials from the warehouse, we can simply say from materials account. How many units do we receive? We receive 800 units at $5, that is 4,000. Okay, but in the work in progress account, this is a production account. We make use of materials, we make use of labor, okay, and whatever overhead that we are going to incur. So we have to include, to debit this account with the labor cost, okay, and we are told in the question that we incurred, okay, labor at $2 per unit, okay, of $2 per unit. All right, $2 per unit. So the units are 800. So 800 multiplied by 2, that is 1,600. Okay, and then we are also told that we incur production expenses of $1 per unit, and we are working on 800 units. So this production expense is overhead, is an overhead. Okay, overhead of $1 per unit, and we are working on 800 units, so that's 800 multiplied by $1. Here it was $2 multiplied by 800 units. Okay, these are all the costs which have been incurred in the production department. So that's 800 units, and the total here should come up to 6.4. Okay, that's 6.4. Now on this side, all right, we need to ask ourselves, are these items still in work in progress? Okay, if they are still in work in progress at the end of the period, then we are still going to close our account with the work in progress. Okay, the total of 6.4 would be the balance CD for work in progress. Okay, but if we are told by the examiner that we have transferred some of the items to customers, then it means that the work in progress account would be, the balance of work in progress would be low. So in this case, we are told by the examiner that 700 of the units are transferred out, which means they were completed. So transfer to finished goods, to finished goods, goods. So this is a transfer to finished goods. Okay, so we are told that 700 of the items, okay, were transferred. All right, and we know that these items are now subject to production cost. All right, they are now subject to production cost. So we need to account for the production cost. So how do we do that? We get back to the question, and we have to remember that the production cost has now become $8. Remember, the cost of material, the cost of labor, the cost of overhead is going to be accounted for in the production. So we realize that it is $8. It costs $8 per unit to produce one item. So we are going to say the transfer to finished good was 700 multiplied by the $8, which is the cost of production of producing 1 unit. So we are going to get 5,600. So we will have to balance up our account. Okay, here 700. But you can see that if we put these figures, our account is not going to balance. So it means we have to do something. Okay, we have to do something. Okay, so this simply means that we are going to say the larger number, which is on the debit side, these are the larger numbers, 6.4, 800. So obviously the balance CD is going to be here 100, which means we have got 100 items which are still work in progress. They are not yet complete. And here, what is the balance? That's 800. You can verify this balance if you use the cost of production, which was $8 as indicated here, multiplied by 100 items which are left in stock, and you are going to get the same figure. Then lastly, we have to account for the finished goods. Finished goods. Those items which we have transferred from work in progress to finished goods. Okay, and we know there are 700 items. Okay, so we are going to say units, amount, units, amount. So this is from work in progress, WIP, 700 units, and they are costing 5,600. Okay, and now this unit, if they are not sold, we are still going to remain with our 700 units and $5,000, $5,600. But if they are sold, then it means that the closing finished goods are going to be smaller. Okay, so we are told that 500 units of finished goods are sold. So we are going to say cost of sales. Okay, because they are a cost of sales because they were part of the inventory that has been sold. Okay, so their cost is going to be accounted for as cost of sales. All right, so 500 units. All right, at how much? At the production cost of $8. So that's okay. You can say 500 multiplied by $8 per unit, and that's we get 400. Okay, and then we have to balance up our account. That's 700, 5,600. 700, 5,600. So obviously the balance should be balance CD, which is in this case 200. So 200 are still in stock as finished goods, but they are not yet bought. Okay, and here, sorry, this is 4,000, and we can get 1.6. Okay, that's 1.6, not 2. Okay, so that's how you have to proceed with these computations, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you have been assisted this far, and in our next video, we are then going to continue with the computations to discuss items of we're going to discuss further items, okay, related to the accounting for materials, where we'll be talking of inventory valuation methods. We're going to talk of the FIFO, LIFO, Acca. You know, there are two forms of these weighted average costs. We have got the cumulative average cost method as well as the periodic average cost method. So we're going to elaborate on those for your benefit. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, may you continue to feel very, very blessed. I'm signing out.